Once, in a small town nestled between rolling hills and sprawling fields, there lived a boy named Jake. He was just like any other boy, trying to make his way through life. But there was something that set him apart, something that kept him awake at night. A girl named Emily. Emily was the epitome of beauty. She had long, flowing hair that shimmered like gold in the sunlight, eyes that sparkled like stars, and a smile that could light up even the darkest of rooms. She was admired by everyone in their school, but Jake admired her more than anyone. From the moment he laid eyes on her, his heart raced in ways he didn't understand. Every time she passed by, he felt a flutter in his chest. But there was a problem. Jake was poor. While Emily came from a well-off family, always adorned in the latest clothes and accessories, Jake was different. He lived in a small, run-down house on the outskirts of town with his mother, who worked long hours as a seamstress to provide for them. They had just enough to get by, but not enough for luxuries. Jake knew this well. He had always been aware of the vast difference in their lives, and while he never thought it would matter, a part of him feared it would. One afternoon after school, Jake finally mustered up the courage to approach Emily. He had rehearsed his words 1,000 times in his head, making sure to sound confident. But as soon as he stood in front of her, his nerves got the best of him. "Emily, I was wondering if maybe you'd like to go out with me sometime," he stammered, his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Emily looked at him, her face softening for a moment. But then, her gaze shifted, and Jake saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Not love, but pity. She gently shook her head. "I'm really sorry, Jake, but I can't. You're a nice guy, but, well, I just don't think we're on the same level." "You don't have the kind of life I'm used to," she said, her voice calm but firm. Her words struck him like a slap across the face. He had heard of rejection before. But this felt different. It wasn't just a no. It was a reminder of his place in the world, his poverty, his lack of status. It all became painfully clear in that moment. He turned away, his heart heavy with sadness and self-doubt. For days, Jake walked around in a daze, unable to shake the sting of Emily's rejection. He could hardly focus at school, and when he was at home, he barely spoke to his mother. His mind was consumed with thoughts of what could have been. Why did she reject him? Was it because he didn't have enough money? Was that all he was worth to her? The number in his bank account? The sadness slowly turned into anger, and then into deep depression. He spent hours lying in bed, wondering if life was even worth living. He had always known that he didn't have the same advantages as others, but he had never thought it would cost him so dearly. Emily's rejection hurt more than he had imagined, and it sent him spiraling. But one night as he lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, something inside him clicked. This was it. This was the moment he could either wallow in misery forever or change his life. He thought about his mother, the long hours she worked, the sacrifices she made to give him a better life. He thought about how he had always dreamed of being someone important, someone successful, and yet he had done nothing but let his circumstances define him. He had let poverty rule his life, no more. Jake wiped the tears from his eyes, sat up in bed, and made a decision. He would change. He would become the person he wanted to be. The next morning, Jake didn't sleep in like he usually did. No. This time he woke up at the crack of dawn. The air was crisp, the sun was still low in the sky, and the town was quiet. It was the perfect time to start. He put on his old sneakers and headed out for a jog, even though he could barely run a mile without feeling exhausted. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that if he wanted to change, he had to start with discipline. For weeks he kept up with his early morning runs. His body grew stronger and his mind clearer. There was something empowering about waking up early and pushing his body to its limits. It wasn't just about fitness. It was about taking control of his life. As Jake jogged through the streets each morning, he noticed the rich houses, the fancy cars, and the people who lived in comfort. But instead of feeling envious, he felt motivated. He knew that he wasn't going to let the circumstances of his birth define him, but physical fitness wasn't enough. Jake knew that to truly change his life, he had to change his financial situation. So he began researching. He read books, watched videos, and attended workshops. He learned about business, about starting small and scaling up. He didn't have a lot of money, but he had a strong work ethic, and that was enough. He decided to start a small online business selling handmade leather goods. He had always admired his mother's skill at sewing and crafting, and he realized that he could put his own twist on it. Using the little money he had saved from odd jobs, Jake bought some materials and started making wallets, belts, and bags. At first, the business was slow. He only sold a few items here and there. But Jake didn't give up. He kept learning, tweaking his designs, and marketing his products. Slowly but surely, the orders started coming in. He built a website, set up social media accounts, and began attracting customers from all over the world. Within a few months, his business began to grow exponentially. He hired a few workers to help with production and even invested in better equipment. By the end of the first year, his leather goods business was thriving. He'd made more money than he ever thought possible, and his life was completely transformed. The moment of truth. Meeting Emily. Again, one day, while Jake was attending a business conference in the city, he happened to run into someone from his past. He was walking through the lobby when he saw her. Emily. She was standing by the coffee table, laughing with her friends, just like the beautiful girl he had once admired from afar. But now something was different. Jake wasn't the same boy who had been rejected a year ago. He was taller, stronger, and exuded an air of confidence that he had never had before. His clothes were expensive, and his posture was that of a successful entrepreneur. Emily turned her head, and their eyes met. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. She froze, her smile fading as she recognized him. It took a few seconds for her to process, but then it hit her. This was Jake, the boy she had rejected. Jake walked toward her, his steps steady. He didn't feel the same nervousness he had before. This time he was in control. "Emily," he said, his voice calm but strong. "It's been a while." Emily looked at him, stunned. She was speechless for a moment, her eyes scanning him up and down. "Jake, is that really you?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Jake smiled. "Yes, it's me. I guess I've changed a little." She couldn't hide the shock in her expression. "But how? You were so different back then." "I've been working hard," Jake replied. "I started a business, got fit, and changed my mindset. Life doesn't give you anything unless you take it." Emily stood there staring at him, her mind racing. She had never expected to see Jake again, let alone like this. She had rejected him because of his poverty. But now, he was a successful entrepreneur, someone she never imagined could exist in her world. She had underestimated him. "So, Emily finally said, her voice softening. "I'm really impressed. You've done well for yourself." Jake nodded. "Thank you. But more importantly, I've learned that nothing in life comes easy. You have to work for it. And most of all, you have to believe in yourself." As Emily processed his words, Jake felt a strange mix of emotions. He wasn't angry with her anymore. He wasn't bitter. He had learned something far more valuable. Success wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about proving to yourself that you could achieve what you set out to do. Emily looked at him, a new respect in her eyes. "I wish you all the best, Jake," she said. With that, they parted ways. Emily had learned a valuable lesson that day, and so had Jake. Jake's journey wasn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It was about realizing that the key to success lies within yourself. Rejection, hardship, and failure are inevitable parts of life, but how you respond to them determines your future. Jake could have stayed in his sadness, wallowed in self-pity, and let his circumstances define him. But instead, he chose to take action, change his mindset, and work relentlessly toward his goals. His transformation didn't happen overnight, but through consistent effort, discipline, and the willingness to grow, he achieved everything he had once thought impossible. The lesson here is simple. Never let external circumstances dictate your worth. You have the power to shape your future no matter where you start.